Across three continents, from the bustling streets of Jakarta to the chaotic protests in Antananarivo, one symbol keeps reappearing on protest signs, banners, and even graffiti: a skull wearing a straw hat. It's not a political party's logo, it's not a government emblem, it's One Piece, the beloved Japanese manga and anime series about pirates chasing freedom across the seas. Yet somehow it has become the unexpected flag of a generation rising against inequality, corruption, and broken systems. In the past few months alone, Gen Z protests have swept Madagascar, Indonesia, Nepal, and the Philippines, with young people carrying One Piece imagery as their silent rebellion against the establishment. But what does a pirate's straw hat have to do with real-world revolutions? To understand this phenomenon, you have to begin in Madagascar, a country long troubled by political instability and economic hardship. For 25-year-old Itra Ariliva, political frustration used to live online, not in the streets. But when a United Nations report revealed that 22 people had been killed in protests, victims of both security forces and looters, something changed in him. "It wouldn't change my country if I just typed some words online," he said. And so, Setra joined thousands of others in what became one of the largest youth-led protests in Madagascar's modern history. Within days, then President Andry Rajoelina fled the country. The spark had been lit, and across the developing world, young people were watching and resonating. Not long after, in Indonesia, anger erupted over something that seemed minor but symbolized a much larger issue: inequality. Reports emerged that all 580 members of parliament were to receive a monthly housing allowance of 50 million rupiah, nearly 20 times the average monthly salary in parts of Jakarta. As frustration grew, tragedy struck. A delivery driver named Afan Kurniawan was killed after being hit by a police car. His death, captured on video, spread like wildfire online. For many young Indonesians, that was the breaking point. Among them was Flo, a health worker who had never attended a protest before. "When I saw his video, it broke my heart to pieces," she said. "This time, I couldn't stay quiet." Jakarta's protests soon turned into a national movement. Government buildings were set ablaze, politicians' houses were raided, and the rage of a generation, fueled by social media and years of perceived corruption, boiled over. But there was also compassion. Flo, along with other health workers, began organizing medical support for protesters injured in clashes. "I started to think about what I can do besides posting online," she explained. "Maybe there's something I can do with my community." Amnesty International later reported that at least 11 people had been killed and more than 900 injured during the unrest. Yet the message from Indonesia's youth was clear: enough was enough. While Indonesia burned, the spark traveled north. In Nepal, protests broke out in early September against a government decision to ban major social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and X. The government called it a security measure. Young people called it censorship. When authorities opened fire on protesters, killing at least 19, the movement morphed into something much larger: a revolt against corruption, privilege, and inequality. For many, the symbol of rebellion wasn't a party flag or a national emblem, but a one-piece banner, the pirate skull flying above the chaos. Within days, protesters had torched symbols of power: parliament, government offices, and even a newly opened Hilton hotel. What followed was extraordinary. Amid the ashes of the protests, Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli resigned. But the next leader wasn't chosen through parliament. It was chosen through discord. Thousands of young protesters cast their votes online for Sushila Kaki, the former Chief Justice of Nepal's Supreme Court, who then became interim Prime Minister. The move stunned observers: a digital democracy born from digital rebellion. Yet it reflected the defining trait of Gen Z activism: decentralized, tech-savvy, and guided by symbols rather than structures. The 2 days of anti-corruption protests left 72 people dead, according to official figures, a tragic price for what many saw as the rebirth of accountability in Nepali politics. Barely a week later, similar scenes unfolded in the Philippines. Accusations emerged that dozens of politicians were taking cash payments from construction firms involved in flood control projects, a scandal worth billions. As outrage grew, thousands of young Filipinos took to the streets, waving one-piece flags alongside handmade placards quoting the show's main character, Monkey D. Luffy. "If you don't take risks, you can't create a future." For student activist Matthew Silverio, the protests weren't just about corruption, they were about generational betrayal. A lot of these politicians' kids, these Nepo babies, are living their best lives with our tax money, he said. While we struggle to survive, they flaunt luxury. It's infuriating. For many in this generation, One Piece has become more than entertainment. It's a shared language of defiance. The story of a group of pirates sailing against a corrupt world government in pursuit of freedom mirrors their own struggles against systems they see as unjust and outdated. As Dr. Anissa Beta, a cultural studies scholar at the University of Melbourne, explained, One Piece reinterprets what politics could look like for young people. It's not about elections or bills. It's about imagining a better future for themselves. The symbol of the straw hat pirate has become shorthand for rebellion, hope, and the idea that freedom must be earned, not granted. Back in Madagascar, Setra still remembers the moment he saw a stranger holding a one-piece flag beside him at the protest. "It was strange at first," he said, "but then I realized that's what we all want, freedom." The imagery may come from fiction, but the emotions behind it are painfully real. Frustration with inequality, disillusionment with governments, and a deep hunger for justice. From Africa to Southeast Asia, Gen Z is rewriting the language of protest, blending internet culture, anime, and activism into something entirely new. As the credits roll on this global movement, one question lingers. What happens when a generation raised online starts shaping the streets offline? The world's leaders are learning that this isn't a passing trend. It's a transformation. For Gen Z, protest isn't just about anger. It's about connection. It's about turning memes into movements and stories into symbols. And perhaps that's what One Piece has always represented. Not rebellion for its own sake, but a collective journey towards something better. A treasure not of gold, but of justice, dignity, and hope.